The first time that God introduces himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moses, Moshe meets God at this burning bush. And the Torah says that this bush is on fire, but it's not actually burning, it's not actually being consumed. It's just on fire. And it's a puzzling scene to see this. Right? Moshe was very confused, like, what is this? And over there, he converses with God for the first time. God tells Moshe, you're going to set the Jewish people free. You're going to take them to Mount Sinai. We're going to consummate this relationship and this marriage, this everlasting connection with me and my nation is going to materialize. You fast forward several weeks later to this week's Torah portion, which describes the event that took place at Mount Sinai. And it says, I'll read it in Hebrew and then I'll translate. Umare kvoid Hashem, the image, the glory of God, ke'esh oicheles, was like a consuming fire, berosh hahar, at the top of the mountain, le'enei b'nei Yisrael, to the eyes of the Jewish people. When God first introduces himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, he introduces himself as a fire, but a fire that is not consuming anything. And then when he introduces himself to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai, when the relationship has been consummated, the Torah describes God not as a fire, but as a consuming fire. The Torah is making a point to tell us that this time, the fire is actually consuming something. This time, something is actually being burnt. What is the difference? What is the fundamental change that took place pre-Sinai, pre-Exodus from Egypt, where God appeared as a fire, and post-Sinai event and post-Exodus, where God is not just a fire, but God is a consuming fire? A fundamental change happened. And this fundamental change is what makes relationships last. This fundamental change is almost like the difference between just dating somebody and being married to them. Because when you're dating somebody, you decide whether you like them or not. And you might really like this person. You might feel like you're in love with this person. You might feel infatuated with this person or by this person. You might be like this fire that is just, there's like this aura of inspiration. There's this fire that's just endless. It's not being consumed. There's no real impact. It's not actually doing anything. It doesn't actually call to action. It doesn't actually come with any responsibility. It's just pure inspiration that makes you feel good. It's a fire that's not consuming anything. It's not actually doing anything. But then you get married. Then we meet God at Mount Sinai. Then he gives us the Torah. And now he's not just a fire. He's not just inspiration. He's a consuming fire. He's a fire that calls to action, that calls to real life impact. The difference between dating and marriage, feeling good versus having a real impact, having real responsibilities. And as Jews, now that God has given us the Torah at Mount Sinai, and God has declared himself not just a fire, as he did with Moshe Rabbeinu, but as a consuming fire, God is telling us that it's time to have a real impact. It's not enough just to feel good about our relationship, although that is important. There has to be real impact, and that real impact is through mitzvahs. Our mitzvahs actually mean something. When we do what God wants, there's a real impact in this world. It actually makes this world more sacred. It makes this world more holy. When we do things in our marriage, and not just feel good about our marriage, not just look to feel good, which is important, but when we actually do something about it, there's real, lasting impact. This is the fundamental difference between pre-Exodus and post-Exodus, or pre-Sinai, post-Sinai. Is it just fire? Is it just inspiration? Or is it an impactful fire that is actually consuming something that actually makes a real world difference? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Good job, as friends.